Hello and welcome back. And today we're going to be doing the dual EP episode 3 Devil Wears Prada zombie EPs 1 and 2. So let's just jump straight into things. Zombie EP 1 starts off with track number 1, Escape, which is about 4 minutes and 45 seconds. So we get an operatic build which quickly gives way to this fast-paced mayhem with quick drums, screeching guitar wails, and the signature vocals of the band tinged, screams with that little bit of a weird, nuance to them. Like no other band seems to get that same style. Probably something to do with Mike's accent and where he's been raised and stuff, but he's the only guy I've heard who's got a voice like that. And obviously the beautifully done cleans are in here as well. And of course, with any old 2000s or early 2000s metalcore, deathcore, whatever you call them, I think it's metalcore, there is a gun loading sound effect. Admittedly, the lyrics are a tad repetitive and bland here, but everything else covers the rest of it well and hides the fact of that. So it's kind of forgivable. Moving on to track 2, we get into the Anatomy song, which is a 3 minutes and 46 second song. And this starts off with a chainsaw sound effect that ended off the first song. And the vocals kick in, basically get a breakdown of the anatomy of a zombie infected person. Again, lyrics can be a tad repetitive here, but not too bad, I think. And we end on a clean scream duo ending verse before going into track number 3, Outnumbered, which is just shy of 5 minutes. I think, if I remember correctly, it's like 4:54. And this was the only single actually released off of this EP, and is a tale of the Zeds numbers overwhelming and outnumbering the uninfected population. And the first minute is it's actually like the first 30 seconds are like a broadcast kind of explaining how to kill a zombie, the sort of stuff you would put at the beginning of an EP or an album based around zombies, not your 3rd out of 5 songs, but who am I to judge? Eventually after that, the song comes in around the 40-second mark, with Mike's vocals. The quick pace stays here, and the song is possibly the best one on the EP, for me, I think, so far. Track number 4, we have Revive, which is, again, just shy of 5 minutes. It's like 4:53. And apparently this was originally slated to be titled Cure, but that was changed. Although this explores if the virus that caused the Z outbreak can be undone, but in the song they say stuff like, the cure is a shotgun, the cure is whatever blunt instruments one can salvage. And then I think they do go on to say, if you're too proper to do this, it'll be your downfall or something like that. Basically to say, if you can't get your hands dirty, you will become one of them. But as well as that, they also say, we cannot restore, we cannot recover, which kind of just adds to that whole element of, this can't be reversed, this is what we're going to have to deal with, basically. Because I did see there was an interview part where they basically explained why it was about the cure, and they were like, it's kind of just like a trope of everything to do with zombies. Can it be cured? Can it be reversed? If it can be cured, what do we need to do it? Sort of thing. Whereas they've just kind of gone for a, no, we're fucked sort of outlook. Track number 5, we have Survivor, which is 4 minutes 32. And again, the fast pace stayed through all 5 of the songs. And we're into the final track, where we hear the point of view of one of the few survivors in a farm on the outskirts of Kansas. And near the mid portion, we have an extended clean section that's backed up with some of the screams that are kind of like a little bit pushed back, so it's like layered slightly, and it just has that chaotic, sinister feel to it, in my opinion. So, with that, what were my favourite tracks on the EP? Since it's such a short EP, I am going to go through 1 through 5. Starting at number 1, my favourite song was Outnumbered. 2 was Survivor. 3 was Revive. 4 was Escape, and 5 was Anatomy. So, moving on to the next part, we have Zombie 2, which starts with the song Nightfall, which is about 4.5 minutes long. This is a more recent addition to the discography. This came out in 2021, obviously just before their Color Decay album, which I will be reviewing coming up soon. So the sound has evolved and cleaned up a lot from 2010 when Zombie 1 came out. The screams are more refined and melodic, with somber cleans thrown in to add that little bit of like lost hope. I also feel like the music isn't as chaotic here, and the lyrics feel a little bit more refined and thought out and layered, but they do repeat things on occasion, just not as frequently as they were in the first EP. Track 2 is called Forlorn, which was 4 minutes exactly. And I can't help think the opening verse may be in reference to the COVID-19 virus of late 2019 all the way through to 2020, etc. Because they say, at the time of the onset, humanity has mismanaged the gravity of this virus, which, you know, I could see them using real life influences to add a little bit of spice to this one, especially with what we would have been going through in 2021. You know, that would have been kind of like peak pandemic, peak virus. So, yeah. And after that, the song ebbs and flows with heavy portions going into somber cleans and refrain screams, and is a really well designed track, and again just goes to show that The Devil Wears Prada really started coming into their own with this newer sound that they developed as the years went on. Track 3 is called Termination and is 3 minutes 21, I think it is, maybe. And this track has more of a crafted verse, pre-chorus, chorus structure over the more lax flow of the other songs in the EP storylines. You can really tell that as it isn't as chaotic and all over the place, with a bridge breakdown ender before we get to track number 4. But I will say, this one, even though it felt more structured and more rigid, definitely did add a good bit to the album and the story. I'm not exactly sure why I like this one so much, but it just felt like old school Devil Wears Prada with a new school lick, and it felt a bit more story driven for the EP than the other ones did, I think. Which the story element carries on with track number 4, Nora, which is just shy of 4 minutes long. I think it's like 3:54. And this one feels more like a story, which it is, of a survivor called Nora, seemingly trying to find some reprieve from running away from everything that's happening with the Zeds and stuff, but she can't seem to stop because the monster's always on her trail. And, you know, they say in there, I believe it's like, every city tells a different story, or are they just the same? The road says to go, and stuff like that. And they keep referencing in there they're hunting her and that they won't stop until they get her blood, or something like that. So it's an interesting one. And finally we end off with track 5, Contagion, which is just shy of 5 minutes long. It's like 4:54. The final track here starts slow and somber with a piano and echoey cleans before things speed up into the vocals of Mike, which eventually yield to possibly my favourite chorus of both of these EPs because of the dual vocal layered structure. So it starts off, Mike will go, subject some force, and as he's saying that, the clean singer, I forgot to write his name down, says, how can we? Then Mike will go, every breath, and as he's saying that, the cleans go, keep our heads above. Then Mike will go, offer your strength. Then the cleans will go, this slow motion. Then Mike will go, push the pace, and then this cleans will go, is speeding up. And they're really layered. So like as Mike is like halfway through his sentence, the clean singing takes over, and like you hear that as well. So it's kind of like I said, layered and structured one upon each other, and it is really well done. And I think that is one of the best songs on EP2, which takes me into my top tracks. And honestly, EP2 is a lot harder to arrange them in my favorite order because this one felt a lot more solid and definitely felt better than Z1. And I think again this is some, like I mentioned, just the fact that the band seem to have come into their own and found like a flow that works for them and a sound that works for them and a style that they're kind of known for now. So that all probably all plays a part in it. But anyway, my top tracks. We're going to start with number 1, which is Contagion. Then we're actually going to go for 2 being Forlorn, because that was a banger. Nora comes in at 3. Termination I'm going to put at 4, and 5 Nightfall. But that's not to say that Nightfall was bad. That was just the weaker of the 5 tracks in my opinion. Final thoughts, final bites, final bits. Definitely preferred Zombie 2, as I said, because it feels like they've found their sound, and the EP had more of a direction and structure to it than Z1. But by that, like I said, I'm not saying that Z1 is a bad EP. It's just their old sound was very chaotic and out there and cool, and it was kind of like the sound of the times, you know, like every band had this like very chaotic like sound, and obviously they were trying to go for a very fast-paced, like holy shit what's going on, like adrenaline pumping sound with it as well, which kind of added to that chaoticness. Whereas I think this one they were going for more of that like somber, slow yet heavy tone. So like they kind of wanted to keep the fast pace, but they also wanted to intersperse it with like nothing can be done, we are fucked sort of vibes, which they really did well to kind of get that across. I don't know if there will be another installment to the Zombie series. If there is, I will look at it. I might also do their Space EP at some point, but this will bring me on to some videos that I've got coming out soon, which will talk about if concept albums and concept EPs are a good or a bad thing. But with that being said, I am going to wrap this video up. I will see you in the next video, which will be an album review of the newest Of Sulphur album, which came out this year. So that's going to take a little while for me to get through, because I've got to do all the research and stuff for that and work it all out. And I think that is a semi-long album, so I should see you in a couple of weeks. Remember to stay safe out there, my friends. Goodbye.